What happens when two powerhouse women face off on live national TV, neither willing to blink, neither willing to bend? This wasn't a friendly daytime chat. It was a live-wire showdown that had the internet exploding within minutes. Jennifer Lopez walked onto The View expecting a routine promo stop. Instead, she stepped straight into a storm. And the woman stirring those dark clouds? Whoopi Goldberg herself. The studio lights burned bright as Jennifer glided to her seat, smiling for what she assumed would be an easy interview she'd done 1,000 times before. Fans clapped, ready to hear about her music, her next tour, the relentless hustle behind her fame. But beneath Whoopi's calm gaze, something dangerous simmered in energy that promised fireworks before the first commercial break. Then, it began. Whoopi's voice sliced through the warm applause like a sudden clap of thunder. "Let's talk about your comments on working mothers," she said, low and firm. It didn't sound curious. It sounded like a trap snapping shut. Jennifer held her posture, trying to keep the moment light. She explained that she'd only shared her own experience, balancing career and motherhood. But Whoopi wasn't buying a single word. She leaned forward, eyes locked, ready to strike. "You've got nannies, assistants, private jets. How can you speak for mothers who are barely surviving?" The words hit like sharpened daggers. Gasps rippled through the audience. The other co-hosts shifted in their seats, unsure whether to jump in or hide behind their cue cards. Jennifer's face stayed calm, at least on the surface. "I've never denied my privilege," she replied, voice steady but tight. "But that doesn't erase the heartbreak of being away from my children." Whoopi pounced again, sharper this time. "Oh, please. You're crying about bedtime stories while flying first class?" The jab was mocking, designed to sting. Jennifer's jaw tightened. She was being boxed in, painted as out of touch, stripped of her right to feel anything because of her success. But she refused to retreat. "I never compared myself to a mom working 2 jobs, she fired back. "I said, all working mothers feel guilt and pressure." The tension thickened until it felt like static in the air. Whoopi's smirk spread, cold and deliberate. "So, missing your kids while rich is the same as missing them while broke. That's your argument?" It wasn't what Jennifer said at all, but Whoopi wasn't chasing clarity, she was chasing blood. Jennifer sat up straighter, hands gripping the edge of the table. "That's not what I said," she shot back. "You're twisting my words because you don't like what I represent." The room went dead silent. Jennifer was no longer defending a quote, she was defending her identity, her motherhood, her right to speak. Whoopi leaned in closer, eyes narrowing. "When you talk to millions, your words carry weight. You'd better think before you speak about struggle." Jennifer didn't flinch. "So, I should stay silent? Hide my pain because someone else has it worse? That's not empathy. That's censorship." Her voice cracked like a thunderclap across the set. Whoopi laughed, but there was no warmth in the sound, only venom. "Support? You're not supporting anyone but yourself. You had a platform and you made it about you." Jennifer met her glare without blinking. "Acknowledging my experience doesn't mean ignoring others. It's not either or." The words were sharp enough to draw sparks. The co-hosts looked petrified, eyes darting between the two women like spectators at a heavyweight fight. One tried to speak, but Whoopi snapped, cutting her off. "No, let her finish. Let's hear what else she thinks she knows about me." Jennifer's response was a clean strike. "I think you're so used to controlling the conversation that you don't know how to handle it when someone challenges you." A collective gasp. The insult was thinly veiled, and it landed with the force of a sledgehammer. Whoopi's face flushed crimson. "You've changed your brand more than Madonna," she fired back. "And now you want to cry about motherhood?" Jennifer leaned forward, voice rising. "You mean I've evolved? You mean I've grown? You mean I refuse to let people like you put me in a box?" The temperature in the room spiked. "People like me?" Whoopi shot back, her voice a warning bell. "Are you really going there? Say it clearly." Jennifer's eyes blazed. "I mean people who tear others down to protect their own authority, people who forget what it means to support women." The gloves were officially off. Whoopi's laugh came sharp and cutting. "Support? Coming from someone who changes her image every time a man enters the picture? That's rich." The attack was personal, dragging Jennifer's relationships into the spotlight with brutal intent. Jennifer's face paled for a second, then flushed with fury. "How dare you bring my private life into this?" she snapped. "What do my exes have to do with motherhood?" "That's a cheap shot." Whoopi didn't budge. "I know what everyone knows. You've been married more times than I can count. Your whole life is a performance, and now you want to lecture me on authenticity?" Jennifer's voice trembled, not with fear, but with sheer outrage. "My personal life isn't your weapon. You're so desperate to win an argument you're willing to drag my children into it. That's disgusting. The audience sat frozen, wide-eyed and silent. Every second felt heavier than the last. Whoopi's voice hardened, every word dripping with challenge. You don't know what struggle really is, she barked. You walk in here acting like you've survived the impossible while living in mansions and flying private. Try being a mother with no money, no options, and no spotlight, then tell me about guilt. Jennifer refused to flinch. This isn't a competition, she countered, her voice like steel. Pain isn't a race to the bottom. Why can't both realities exist at the same time? Why can't we respect all experiences without tearing one down? The co-hosts looked like statues, their smiles long gone. Producers waved frantically behind the cameras, begging for a commercial break. But the two women at center stage were locked in, refusing to yield. Whoopi sneered, refusing to soften. You want to talk about authenticity? Let's talk about how your image changes with every album, every man, every press tour. Nothing about you stays consistent except your need to be adored. Jennifer's eyes narrowed, disbelief flashing across her face. So, evolving is now a flaw? She shot back. Changing is something to be ashamed of? I've changed because I've learned. I've changed because I've grown. Maybe you should try it sometime. The audience gasped. The air felt electric, charged with a tension no commercial break could cut. Then Whoopi delivered a line that froze the entire set. What exactly do you mean by people like me? She growled, her voice low and dangerous, because that sounds like something you really shouldn't say on national television. Every eye in the studio locked on Jennifer, but she didn't retreat. I mean people who think their version of struggle is the only one that counts, she said slowly, each word razor sharp. People who use their past to belittle anyone who isn't just like them. People who tear others down to protect their own power. Whoopi let out a bitter, hollow laugh. Coming from someone who's spent her life chasing headlines? You want to talk about real women's struggles, but your version of pain is missing a photo shoot with your kids? Get real. Jennifer's reply was deadly calm. I have missed moments. I've cried alone in hotel rooms. I've walked into interviews like this one, expecting a conversation, only to be ambushed. My life isn't perfect, and I've never claimed it was. But I have every right to share it. The studio's silence was suffocating. Even the crew stopped moving. Whoopi suddenly slammed her palm on the table so hard the microphones rattled. This is my table, she thundered. My show. I decide what's worth hearing and what's just self-indulgent whining. Jennifer's eyes blazed. And that's exactly the problem, she said, her voice ringing out like a bell. You think you own the truth. You think anyone who doesn't agree with you should sit down and shut up. The audience gasped again. The tension was now unbearable, like a rope pulled to the point of snapping. You don't get to call this bullying, Whoopi shot back, voice trembling with fury. This is accountability. This is journalism. Jennifer shook her head slowly, never breaking eye contact. No. This is bullying. This is you putting on a show at my expense. This is ego over empathy. Whoopi leaned forward, eyes flashing. You have everything, money, fame, power. What more do you want? Jennifer's answer was simple, almost whisper-soft. To be heard. The words sliced through the studio like a cold wind. For the first time, Whoopi's face faltered, a flicker of uncertainty flashing across her features. The power dynamic shifted in an instant. Everyone watching could feel it, but Whoopi wasn't finished. You came here for sympathy, she sneered. Wrong studio, sweetheart. Jennifer's voice cut like a blade. No. I came here for honesty, for real conversation. What I got was a performance. The silence that followed was deafening. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the standoff. Whoopi's next words came out like a threat. Then leave. Walk out. But don't you dare come crawling back when you need promotion. Jennifer stood, picking up her purse with slow, deliberate grace. I wouldn't come back if you begged me, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. The crowd gasped again as she turned toward the exit, back straight, dignity untouched, but Whoopi's fury flared hotter. Get out of my studio, she bellowed. Security! Jennifer paused at the door, turning one last time. I don't need security, she replied, eyes burning. I walk out of here with my self-respect. Can you say the same? The studio fell silent. The cameras caught every frozen face, every stunned breath. It was a moment that would replay across social media for weeks. Jennifer lingered just long enough for her final words. This wasn't an interview. It was an ambush, dressed as empowerment. You didn't come here to talk. You came to destroy. The statement landed like a hammer. No one moved. No one dared to breathe. The producers had lost all control. What unfolded was no longer television, it was raw, unfiltered reality. Whoopi finally managed a bitter laugh. "You want to play the martyr now?" Poor misunderstood Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer stood taller. "I'm not a martyr," she said firmly. "I'm a mother. I'm a professional. And I came here believing this platform still lifted women up instead of tearing them down for ratings." That line made crew members visibly flinch. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a direct indictment of the show itself. Whoopi sneered. "Ratings, sweetheart? If we wanted ratings, we wouldn't have invited someone whose last album barely made headlines." The jab was brutal, a naked swing meant to wound. Jennifer didn't flinch. She stepped back toward the table, standing tall. "I may not have topped the charts last year, but I've never built my brand on belittling other women. I've never pretended to support someone while plotting to humiliate them on live TV." A flicker crossed. Whoopi's eyes tiny but unmistakable. The audience would replay that split-second reaction again and again. "You've been in this industry longer than me," Jennifer continued, voice steady as stone. "You've earned your place. But somewhere along the way, you stopped making space for anyone else at the table." Whoopi clenched her jaw, silent. Her silence spoke louder than any comeback. Jennifer leaned closer, her voice now soft but piercing. "You want to know the real difference between us? I'm still fighting to be heard. You've forgotten what it feels like to fight at all." The studio air felt heavy, as if the oxygen had been sucked out. Whoopi finally spat her reply, low and bitter. "You think I've forgotten how to fight? I fight every day for truth, for women, for voices that matter. I just don't think yours does." The words were icy, final, cruel. Jennifer inhaled sharply, nodding once. "Then I guess we finally understand each other." She turned again for the door. Jennifer froze mid-step as a final jab drifted across the set, quiet but sharp enough to slice through the heavy air. "Typical celebrity," Whoopi muttered, just loud enough for the mic to catch. "Crying for sympathy when they don't get their way." Jennifer turned back slowly. Her expression wasn't angry anymore, it was something deeper, almost wounded. "That's the saddest part," she said softly, her voice carrying across the silent studio. "You think showing emotion is weakness. You think vulnerability is manipulation. No wonder so many women are afraid to speak." The crew stood motionless. The co-hosts looked down at their cue cards, as if they might disappear inside them. Whoopi opened her mouth, then shut it, unable to summon a comeback. Jennifer took a long breath and walked out of the studio doors. The sound of her heels echoed like a drumbeat of finality. The silence she left behind was deafening, louder than any argument, sharper than any insult. Within hours, the internet erupted. Clips of the explosive exchange shot across social media like wildfire. Hashtags ignited. Number Team J-Lo, number Whoopi Unleashed, number Daytime Disaster. Millions of views piled up before midnight. Comment sections lit up with all-caps outrage and gleeful shock. Headlines screamed across news sites. Jennifer Lopez, ambushed on The View, Whoopi Goldberg's on-air meltdown. Daytime TV's most explosive interview ever. Support poured in from every direction. Fans, fellow celebrities, even former View guests flooded Twitter and TikTok with messages of solidarity. Some praised Whoopi for asking the hard questions, while others accused her of crossing every line of professionalism. It wasn't just debate, it was a cultural earthquake. Meanwhile, Jennifer broke her silence with a single video posted 2 days later. No makeup, no stage lighting, just her, sitting in her kitchen, a mug of tea in her hand. "I've always tried to be honest," she said quietly. "Sometimes honesty makes people uncomfortable. But I won't apologize for being real, not now, not ever." The clip racked up millions of views within hours. Fans shared it across platforms with captions like "Queen Energy" and "Unbothered." Commenters flooded in. "She stayed classy while getting dragged. She showed what grace under fire really looks like." Back at The View, the atmosphere was far less triumphant. Insiders whispered about frantic meetings and nervous sponsors. Producers scrambled to regain control of the show's image. The long-held reputation of The View as a space for uplifting women's voices suddenly looked shaky. Ratings ticked upward from the controversy, but public trust wavered. Whoopi, for her part, said nothing. No apology, no clarification, just silence. And that silence grew heavier, with each passing day louder than any press release, more telling than any official statement. Commentators began framing the confrontation as more than a celebrity spat. They called it a cautionary tale about power turning into pride, about advocacy curdling into judgment, about how a platform built to celebrate women could so easily forget how to listen. Maybe that was the real scandal. Not that two famous women clashed on live television, but that one used her platform to silence while the other fought to speak. In the end, only one of them walked away with dignity fully intact, and millions of viewers watched every second. The ripple effect didn't stop with the broadcast or the first wave of headlines. Days turned into weeks, yet the confrontation refused to fade. Clips of the showdown kept climbing across every platform: Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, late-night recaps, even political talk shows dissected the exchange frame by frame. Each replay added fuel to the fire, sparking endless arguments about power, privilege, and the price of honesty. Former guests of The View began speaking out, some revealing their own tense backstage experiences. A few quietly admitted they had once felt ambushed for ratings, and Jennifer's clash gave them the courage to say so publicly. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just Jennifer versus Whoopi, it was a bigger conversation about how television treats women who refuse to play along. Think pieces flooded major outlets. Cultural critics called it the moment daytime TV finally dropped its mask. Op-eds debated whether tough interviews had turned into televised takedowns. One columnist wrote, "When honesty becomes a spectacle, the truth is the first casualty." The phrase went viral, plastered across memes and fan edits. Jennifer, meanwhile, stayed measured. No revenge interviews, no fiery statements. Her quiet kitchen video, calm, tea in hand, remained her only direct response. That restraint only amplified the contrast. Viewers couldn't help but compare her composed silence with the show's frantic attempts to control the narrative. Inside ABC, insiders whispered about tense production meetings and emergency PR calls. Producers debated whether to issue an apology, fearing it might look like weakness. But every day of silence deepened the public's curiosity and suspicion. The absence of a formal statement became its own headline. As the debate swirled, one truth cut through the noise. This was more than a celebrity dust-up. It was a live demonstration of how easily advocacy can turn into attack, and how quickly a conversation about women can become a contest of ego. You're turned to weigh in now, it's over to you. Did Jennifer Lopez stand her ground with grace, or did Whoopi Goldberg simply hold her guest accountable? Was this fearless journalism or a televised ambush? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Whose side are you on, and why? Let's see which argument resonates louder. And if you crave more deep dives into the clashes shaping today's culture, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next explosive breakdown. Because moments like this aren't just entertainment, they're snapshots of power, pride, and the fight to be heard.